November 1983, the entire world was starting just 5 minutes away from destruction. Yet ordinary people were eating at restaurants, sleeping or enjoying their weekend. No one knew that deep inside Kremlin's underground bunker, the Soviet Union's top generals were sitting with their hands over the nuclear launch controls. Just one green light, and the entire United States could have been reduced to ashes in moments. How did the Soviet Union's overwhelming failure nearly trigger World War III? And how did this signal operation permanently change the course of the Cold War? To understand what happened, we have to go back a little. May 1981, the head of the Soviet Union's notorious KGB, Yuri Andropov, suddenly called an ultra-secret meeting with his top officials. He claimed that the United States and NATO were secretly preparing a surprise nuclear attack against the Soviet Union. At the time, US President Ronald Reagan had publicly labeled the Soviet Union the Ugly Empire. He also dramatically increased America's military spending and decided to deploy the powerful passing-through missile across Europe. Those missiles were capable of striking Moscow in just 6 to 8 minutes. The Soviet leadership became convinced that America might actually be planning to wipe them out. And out of that pair came the largest intelligence operation in Soviet history, Operation Ryan. Operation Ryan had one primary objective: to detect the exact moment the United States or NATO was about to launch an attack, giving Moscow enough time to step back punch. To accomplish that, the KGB ordered its agents around the world to gather information as quickly as possible. The warning signs they were told to us were incredibly instant and unbelievable source of terror. While government buildings in Washington or London keeping their lights on late at night, had the number of people visiting banks and churches suddenly increased. But perhaps the distant indicator of all was hacking blood supplies at hospitals across Europe. The KGB believed that before going to work, America would begin stockpiling massive amounts of blood. The agents became so paranoid that they started interpreting ordinary events as evidence that America was preparing for war. This constant feedback loop of false intelligence turned the inter-Soviet leadership into a ticking time bomb. That pressure reached its peak in November 1983. NATO had begun a routine command post exercise in Europe. Although the exercise took place every year, the 1983 version was different. This time, NATO tried to make it look as realistic as possible, showing how it would conduct a nuclear strike if war actually broke out. They used simulated radio codes and even transmitted a dummy message from President Reagan. When this information reached Moscow through Operation Ryan, the KGB reached a terrifying conclusion. This wasn't an exercise at all. America was using the drill as cover for a real nuclear attack on the Soviet Union. Soviet air bases in East Germany and Poland were immediately placed on high alert. Dozens of warplanes were loaded with nuclear bombs, and their pilots were ordered to sit inside the cockpits, waiting for a single command from the Kremlin. But the Americans had no idea that Soviets were taking their military exercise so seriously. In the end, no missiles were launched. The exercise ended, and the Soviet Union finally realized it never been a real attack. But when news of the incident reached the White House, President Ronald was stunned. The overwhelming fear created by Operation Ryan became a turning point in the Cold War. Reagan began moving away from his more aggressive approach. Not long afterward, Mikhail Gorbachev came to power in the Soviet Union. The two leaders eventually worked together to sign an agreement that reduced nuclear weapons. What did you think of this incredible chapter in history? Do you believe a secret operation like this Cold War is still be active today? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.